Well, while we are driving back, I'm taking him back to where I picked him up from. A deer just appears in the road. At the same time the deer appeared in the road and I had to swerve, homie put his hand on my leg and was reaching up my dress.
Okay, here's my intro. Let me just erase that right there and go simple. My name A-Z. No, I don't like that. A-Z-I-Z-A-K-I-B-I-B-I.
Hey, I'm Aziza Kibibi and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to go into a little bit of the dating territory. If you don't know me, I am an author, an activist, a chef, and a mom, and a survivor of physical and sexual abuse at the hands of my father, who I ended up being impregnated 5 times by. So yes, me being a mother is to the children that came out of that abuse. And escaping him and getting used to the world, and of course, putting trust into men, putting trust into women, I'm having to build that confidence within myself to even interact with people was definitely a journey. And I learned a lot through that journey. I have been in some very interesting predicaments. Everything from nearly being kidnapped by a taxi driver, and this was before Uber, y'all, so there was no tracking them, to men exposing themselves to me just out in the open. So I have had definitely some interesting experiences, and I want to use my knowledge backed by studies and scientific research to talk about what to wear on your first date so you don't get sexually assaulted. And this, y'all, is not it. Now, of course, as an advocate for women's and children's rights and the protections of their bodies, I must just go straight out the gate. Sexual assault is not the responsibility of the person who was assaulted. That's just it. It's not the responsibility of the person who was assaulted. Now, where this area gets a little murky, especially with what I'm about to talk about when it comes to dressing, even though it is not the responsibility of the victim, there are things that you could do to make yourself less appealing to predators. And based on a study of 61 convicted felons that was done by a university, they divulged a lot of the things that they look for when they are targeted women. Now, considering that most sexual assaults are actually committed by people that know the victim, we go out with strangers all the time, and there are predators who are actually strangers. They attack and target people that they don't know. And we as females, really anyone, but specifically as females, because we are more vulnerable to the opposite sex than they are to us, it's good to take all precautions, especially when putting yourself in an intimate or semi-intimate situation with someone that you don't know, such as going on a date. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I prefer the person that I'm dating to come and pick me up, but for the first date, no, he's not gonna know where I live. So I have picked up techniques, things to look out for during my dating process. And I do believe that quite a bit of it was based in paranoia, because I was just very intentional when it came to re-socializing myself. My father kept me very isolated. I did not go to school. I was not allowed to access doctors or nurses or teachers. I was just home. I was just home and exposed to the people that he chose to expose me to. So by the time I escaped him, the anxiety was through the roof. My anxiety with dealing with men and women was just off the charts, and I had to make a decision that I did not want to live afraid of the world. So I just decided, even though I was scared and nervous, I just decided to go out, start talking to people, meet people, and yes, essentially go on dates. In conjunction with the studies that were done of these convicted rapists, I have determined what you should wear to be the most safe and protected when going on a date with someone that you don't know. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, definitely like, and please do share. I like talking about topics that I feel like aren't spoken about publicly enough. And while it may be controversial, it needs to be discussed because we need to protect ourselves, unfortunately, very unfortunately. So on that note, let's get into it.
Jeans. Jeans are my go-to. The tighter, the better. Not only for practical reasons, of course they are hard to get into if they're tight and buttoned. I mean, you see how hard it was for me to even get them on. But psychologically, for a predator, they are a deterrent. And for extra points, a bodysuit. A bodysuit, of course, provides more protection. Next thing is a jumpsuit. Jumpsuit, for obvious reasons, it's not easy to get into. Again, for the psychological effect of the predator, they want to go for what's easy. Now, if you must wear a dress, I recommend something long, but definitely wear something underneath, some form of waist slimmer, shapewear, because that will give you some extra protection. So here are some other ideas. As I mentioned before, we have the shapewear. You know, those things are hard to get into, so of course it'll be difficult for someone else to get into as well. Leather or pleather, vegan leather pants. Tight, the tighter again, the better, just like jeans. Here are some shiny ones. These ones I just love by Spanx, but they also add a layer of protection because they're difficult to get off. Onesies. This one has shorts underneath by Halara. So again, anything that limits access to your private area. And as my weapons of choice, heels, stilettos, because you know what those can do, and any kind of accessory that has hardware on it.
So again, to be clear, the reality is that predators look for certain traits. They look for certain markers. And it helps us as women stay safer taking that into consideration. So just like you get in a car, you put your seatbelt on, right? That's not saying that every time you go and drive, you're going to get in a car accident. No, you are preparing yourself for just in case it happens. So these recommendations that I am suggesting is to reduce the chances and the likelihood, because we have no control over what people do, but we can take into consideration the things that they look for that we do have control over. And the clothes that I mentioned and demonstrated are the best at actually protecting you, or should I say, making it more difficult for someone to violate you. My intention of this video wasn't to like really go deep into every nuanced experience that I had during my dating period. Well, I'm still in my dating period, so yeah. But for an example of dating someone who, well, I can't even say I was dating them. Damn, what does that term even mean really anymore? I hear younger people, Gen Z, using it in different ways than Gen X was using it, than millennials were using it. When I say dating, I don't mean a relationship or the person that you are most consistent seeing or even in an intimate relationship with. When I say dating, I mean going out on dates. I know the equivalent of going out on dates right now is more swiping left or right on Tinder. But I'm old-fashioned. Like I said, I prefer to meet people in person or have someone introduce me to someone. and then exploring spending time with them. So when I say dating, that's what I mean. Going to a restaurant, going to the movies, going to a play. This one situation where I got to the point where I was comfortable with the person. I had known this person for years. However, we did not explore any kind of romantic interaction until more recently. And we went out on, a couple of little meetings, get together for a drink, for dessert, and every time we went out, it was a little broader. It was initially for a drink, then the next time to the movies, like that. That's what the progression was. So one time we decided to go out for dinner and music. Live band was playing at one of my favorite spots to go to in Essex County. And we went. We had a very nice time. He seemed cool. He was polite. Of course, since I am seeing him again, clearly there's something that I like about him. So I continued to entertain him. I drove. I said, okay, rather than us meet there, I'll pick you up. This is my way of trying to maintain control, right? Because since I'm the one driving, that means I'm the one that controls when we leave, so on and so forth. I'm not the one stranded there if things were to go awry. Well, while we are driving back, I'm taking him back to where I picked him up from, a deer just appears in the road. At the same time the deer appeared in the road and I had to swerve, homie put his hand on my leg and was reaching up my dress. Now, I take my own advice. I went through the process. Our first date, I wore jeans, long skirt. I went through the process, all of the examples that I gave you. So, being that I felt comfortable enough to relax a little bit, I wore a dress that was a midi dress, so it came to my knees. Of course, sitting in the car, it goes up a little higher. And in the middle of me avoiding the deer, he decides he's going to take the opportunity. I mean, honestly, I don't know if it was premeditated. He would not have any idea that a deer was going to jump out into the road. But he happened to put his hand up my thigh at the same exact time that the deer jumped into the road. So I'm got scared the shit out of by the deer. And at the same time, this hand is going up my leg, avoided the deer, and then I had to hit his hand away. And ever since then, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, no, that's it. And then, of course, he tried to defend himself by saying, oh, well, we have spent time together, and I thought that maybe blah, 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 bullshit. Because at the end of the day, the man still needs the permission of the woman. We were not in a committed relationship. We had went out on a few dates, yes, but that does not give him agency to touch my body without me okaying it. So that is my story. That is my story time period. But yeah, I definitely have more dating stories. I will get into them on other videos. At this point in time, thank you very much for watching, for listening. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and definitely go down in the comments. I will catch you later. Be blessed, for you are a blessing.